project we're building will use many different classes and interfaces, all of which need to be included before they can be used. Instead of adding each file individually, we're going to make use of another great component of object-oriented programming, autoloading. Autoloading is triggered when a class is not found. Before the system throws an error, we can specify a function which will look for the class and automatically include that file when needed. Let's launch the workspace attached to this video and start by creating our first class. We're going to put all our classes and interfaces in our source directory. Let's create a new folder named Classes. We'll then create a new file named collection.php. For now, we're just going to start with an empty class. In the index.php file, let's attempt to instantiate this new class. New collection. Now we can preview the site in a browser. We see an error telling us that the class collection could not be found. If we go back to Workspaces, we could require this new class file first. This would require us to include each class file individually. So let's set up an autoloader instead. First, we're going to create a config file within the source directory. We'll use this for all the shared functionality we'll need throughout our application. We can then include this file on any page. We're ready to create an autoload function. Let's take a look at the documentation. PHP autoload. The first result tells us that it's preferred to use the SPL autoload register function. So let's go there. Instead of including a class specifically, SPL autoload register will trigger a function when a class is not available. These triggers are sometimes referred to as listeners because they passively listen for some specific event to happen. And when it does, they'll trigger a reaction. For a trigger to work, we need to register this functionality. We use the function SPL autoload register to tell PHP which function to use when a class or interface is not found. Let's scroll to the first example. We build our function, then we register that function with SPL autoload register. PHP will automatically pass the name of the class that it is attempting to instantiate. Unlike the example here, I want to be able to organize my classes and interfaces into subdirectories. To do this, let's use another built-in function named glob. Glob finds the path names matching a pattern. We can use the glob only dir to return only directory entities which match the pattern. Let's go back to Workspaces. We'll create our new function, autoloader, and we'll accept the class name. Then we'll use a for each loop with our glob, the current directory, and all entries. We use the glob only dir flag and then as dir. Now we can check if file exists, our dir, the class name, .php. Then we can require once, the dir, class name, .php. Then we can use the break to stop the for each loop after a file has been found. Next, we need to register this function. SPL autoload register autoloader. Now, when a class is found before an error is thrown, our autoload function will be triggered, which automatically adds the class for us using the require statement. Let's go back to our preview. We no longer get an error because the class has been included with our autoloader. Now that we have an autoloader set up, we no longer have to worry about including any of our future classes or interfaces as long as they're stored in a directory below the source directory.